In Finland, a woman named Ellie was enjoying the quiet beauty of a remote island, where the sound of waves and the whisper of pine trees filled her days. She did not live there alone but with her husband Mikko, a gentle young pastor who had recently taken charge of the local congregation. One morning, while Ellie and Mikko were sharing breakfast at their wooden kitchen table, Mikko told her that an old friend of his named Olavi would soon be visiting. Smiling, Mikko added that Olavi had been invited to stay temporarily at their home. Knowing they would have a guest, Ellie immediately set about cleaning the house, sweeping every corner, and preparing a room for Olavi, her husband's longtime friend. Soon after, Mikko drove off to the dock to pick Olavi up. When he arrived, he reunited warmly with his old friend, embracing him before quickly bringing him back home. Ellie, hearing the sound of the car pulling in, stepped outside to greet them. Yet for some reason, Ellie seemed slightly distant, as though something unspoken weighed on her mind when she saw Olavi standing before her for the first time in years. That evening, Ellie and Mikko invited Olavi to have dinner with them in their backyard under the fading light of dusk. During the meal, Mikko asked about Olavi's personal life, learning that he was still single and living without much direction. Cheerfully, Mikko even offered to find him a woman, joking that the island was full of beautiful women who could make strong partners. Olavi chuckled politely, but Ellie noticed a strange flicker in his eyes. The next day, Mikko left early for work, leaving Ellie to her usual household routines. Meanwhile, Olavi, with little to do, lingered in his room, occasionally glancing out the window to watch Ellie as she moved about the garden. Before long, he attempted to approach her in the kitchen, trying to start a conversation, but Ellie responded coolly, her words clipped, as if keeping her distance on purpose. In the afternoon, restless and bored, Olavi asked Ellie to accompany him around the island. At first hesitant, Ellie finally agreed and showed him several quiet spots, including the mossy paths through the woods and the wind-swept cliffs by the sea. Gradually, she became friendlier, even managing light conversation with him, though her tone still carried traces of awkward restraint. On their way home, they happened to run into Mikko, who had just returned from work. With a smile, Mikko offered them a ride in his car, but to his mild surprise, Ellie chose instead to walk back. That night, Olavi tried to impress Ellie and Mikko by cooking dinner for them. However, his inexperience in the kitchen resulted in odd-tasting food, which made Ellie and Mikko laugh uncontrollably. Rather than being offended, Olavi joined in their laughter, and for the first time, his presence seemed to brighten the house in a genuine way, making both Mikko and Ellie feel unexpectedly entertained. The following day, Ellie took Olavi to church, where Mikko was preaching to a modest but attentive congregation. Ellie listened intently to her husband's sermon, while Olavi stood more casually at the entrance, watching without much interest. Afterward, Mikko explained that he had to leave for business and would not return home for several days. Before departing, he looked at Olavi seriously and asked him to look after Ellie in his absence. Olavi nodded without hesitation. Once Mikko was gone, Ellie and Olavi walked home together despite the long distance, their steps slow and unhurried. Along the way, they grew closer, sharing warm conversations about the island, about the past, and even their private dreams. Their connection deepened later that afternoon when they went to the lakeside, sitting by the calm water, talking and drinking together. From the way Ellie's gaze softened, it was clear she was beginning to feel more comfortable around Olavi, her guard slowly slipping away. The next morning, Ellie joined Olavi again, this time to go fishing on a small wooden boat. The air was crisp, and the water shimmered beneath the sun. During their outing, Olavi asked how she felt about being Mikko's wife. Ellie admitted she was happy, yet in a quiet voice she confessed that she secretly longed for someone who could take her somewhere different, away from the routines of the island. According to Ellie, that person had never appeared in her life. Hearing this, Olavi sensed an opening, a chance to draw closer. Back at the house, while Ellie was changing clothes in her room, she was startled when Olavi suddenly walked in without knocking. He teased her lightly at first, but soon his teasing shifted into subtle touches. Though Ellie had already harbored hidden feelings for him, she struggled for a moment before giving in to his advances. Yet before things went too far, a familiar voice from outside called her name. They quickly pulled apart and rushed out to see who had arrived. It turned out to be Ellie's close friends, who had come unexpectedly to celebrate her birthday. Ellie welcomed them warmly, arranging a small party in the yard with laughter, food, and music filling the air. Yet during the gathering, she noticed that Olavi was absent. Curious and unsettled, Ellie excused herself and began looking for him. After some searching, She finally found him down by the lakeside, laughing and enjoying himself with Lina, one of her friends. Ellie, who had grown secretly fond of Olavi in such a short time, felt a sting of irritation and jealousy as she watched their closeness from a distance, unsure of what to make of her own feelings. Elsewhere, Ellie's friends seemed to really enjoy the small party, laughing and talking until late at night. But not Ellie, who preferred to retreat quietly to her room, curl beneath her blanket, and let them celebrate without her. The next day, still upset and restless, Ellie vented her frustration by chopping wood with an axe behind the house, each strike echoing like the rhythm of her unease. Soon after, Olavi arrived and greeted her warmly, but Ellie remained cold and distant. From time to time, Ellie mentioned Olavi's closeness with Lina, unconsciously revealing her jealousy and confusion. Olavi tried to explain the situation with gentle words, but Ellie ignored him and chose to walk away, her pride refusing to listen. Shortly after, Miko came home, unaware that Ellie and Olavi had already begun an affair behind her back while she was away working long hours. A little later, exhausted from work, Miko decided to rest in her room. But Ellie tried to tease the sleeping Miko, whispering to her and inviting her to make love. Their activities were clearly heard from Olavi's room, keeping him awake and restless. Unable to resist, Olavi quietly peeked through the doorway and saw Ellie and Miko making love. His chest tightened with conflicting emotions. The following morning, after Miko left for work, Ellie went looking for Olavi, who wasn't in his room. She eventually found him walking alone in the forest and asked softly where he was going. Olavi replied coldly, as if hiding something, his tone sharper than usual. After some pressing, he admitted that he was furious for not being able to sleep all night because of the noise from Ellie and Miko. Hearing this, Ellie refuted his words and again brought up how she had felt when she saw Olavi with Lina. Their conversation continued tensely until they returned home. There, Ellie finally revealed all her feelings to Olavi. It turned out Olavi was her past. He had left her 15 years ago without explanation. When Ellie was devastated by his departure, Miko had appeared, lifted her from despair, and slowly made her happy again. The next morning, Ellie came to Olavi's room and invited him to take a trip to the lake. The calm water mirrored the sky as she gathered the courage to hold his hand. Though awkward at first, Ellie began teasing Olavi, playful yet nervous, until eventually, they could no longer hold back and made love. When they returned home, Miko had prepared a small party to celebrate her wedding anniversary with Ellie. She even invited Ellie and Olavi to drink together in the backyard, still unsuspecting despite how often Olavi spent time with Ellie in her absence. As night fell, the three of them went inside. Olavi went back to his room to rest, while Miko tried to seduce Ellie, who was tidying up the dining table. This time, however, Ellie rejected angrily, her voice trembling with emotion, leaving Miko shocked. He never expected such a reaction from Ellie. Afterward, Ellie entered the room to find Miko sitting pensively in silence. They only exchanged glances, heavy with unspoken words, before Ellie left and went to Olavi's room. Without hesitation, Ellie once again teased Olavi, and they made love as if nothing else in the world mattered. From his room, Miko heard suspicious noises coming from Olavi's direction. Slowly, he walked over and was stunned to find Ellie making love to his best friend. His heart shattered like glass, yet Miko did nothing. He chose silence, burying his pain deep inside, as if nothing had happened. The next day, Olavi prepared to leave, saying his vacation was over and he had to return to Paris. Miko, however, invited him to have a meal first before departing. Without suspicion, Olavi agreed. During the meal, Miko recalled their youth together, sharing small memories, then gradually steered the conversation to corner him. At last, Olavi confessed that he had once shared a special relationship with Ellie years ago, and that even while staying at Miko's house, he had rekindled his romance with Ellie whenever Miko was away. Hearing this, Miko felt deeply disrespected and humiliated. He grabbed the rifle displayed on the wall and aimed it at Olavi's head. Yet in the end, he abandoned his intent, trembling with the weight of his decision. Instead, he escorted Olavi to the pier and silently let him go, watching as his figure disappeared into the distance. When Miko returned home, he confronted Ellie about their marriage. Overcome with guilt, Ellie broke down in tears, apologizing for all her mistakes. Though heartbroken, Miko, who truly loved her with all her soul, chose to forgive, hoping Ellie could change for the sake of their long marriage. Miko even gave Ellie the freedom to do whatever made her happy, though the words cut her deeply. Moved by Miko's kindness, Ellie finally invited him to make love, seeking comfort and reconciliation in his arms, and with that the story ends here.